everybody, what's up, and welcome back, I guess, to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you guys some of the seeds that I am going to be winter sowing in January, if I can get the rubber band off of them. Anyway, I usually start winter sowing about January 21st. Mainly the reason for this is my day length is 10 hours around the 23rd, I think. So I like to just get my seeds out as soon as possible to get them growing so they have a chance to establish before, you know, we're going to have to transplant them into the garden. And I guess I'll spread these out so I can take a thumbnail picture for the video. That's a thing, I guess. The main thing that I actually want to focus on for winter sowing in January is cold hardiness. So we're not going to winter sow anything like, you know, zinnias or tomatoes or anything like that. We're only going to sow the things that are tolerant of cold, and you know, if they germinate early, they can handle a little bit of frost. It's not a big deal. If it gets super cold, we can protect them if we have to. But overall, just things that demonstrate some cold tolerance, because remember, I don't have my last frost date here in my growing zone until usually the first week of May to be completely safe. So to get started with this, we are going to do a flowering cabbage mix. I've had this packet of seed a couple years. I'm not sure how the germination is going to be. Basically, this is just a colorful mix of kind of like ornamental kale. So nothing extravagant there. I'm not really expecting that much since this is an old seed packet. Also a lava terra mix. This is another old seed packet that I have, so I'm not expecting too much from it. I'm kind of going fast on these because they are old packets, and I'm kind of just hoping to clear out some of the extra stuff that I have. Moving on to things that I'll actually be growing this year from new packets, we have the Apricot Peach Mix Straw Flower. If you follow the channel, I've grown straw flower in the past. Apricot Peach Mix is just that nice creamy peachy orangey colors. These transplant extremely well, especially even when you kind of sow them thickly. There's no problems there. You can see I've already been kind of sowing seed trays, and I managed to cut myself. But anyway, also I will be starting this La France carnation. I got a big pack of carnation seeds. Technically these are a perennial. I will have to take care of these throughout their first growing season, but I do want to establish kind of a nice patch of perennial flowers. Also, our Scabiosa Pincushion mix. Technically, I can plant these in the fall. I have several of these overwintering in the hoop house, but I want to add some more to the garden for the spring, so we kind of have a staggered planting. They will do well from a spring planting as well. The heat doesn't seem to bother them as much as some of the more you know, heat sensitive varieties. So we're gonna have a nice little stand of pincushion flowers, hopefully. I also have some crane white hybrid cut flower kale. Much like that flowering cabbage mix, this is a highly ornamental kale that we can grow. Get this started early in the spring, and by midsummer we'll have usable stems so we can allow it to keep growing into the fall. Pretty much use it all growing season long. This is just the green outer leaves with a nice white pinkish center. The seed cost for a lot of these ornamental kales are, they can be a little bit pricey, but they are so beautiful. They're definitely worth it, especially if you're growing them for cut flowers. So I'll probably do half of these in the spring and then save the other half of the seeds for the fall. Also, we have the Amazon Neon Purple Pelleted Dianthus. This is a kind of like a type of Sweet William Dianthus, where our Sweet William Dianthus are technically biennials, and this is technically listed as a tender perennial. These Amazon Dianthus seeds, they will bloom the first season. I've grown these before. I know I'm gonna like the look of it, and hopefully we'll have just a nice kind of stand of these Dianthus to go along with the Sweet William Dianthus that we planted last year as well. Moving on to other things that I am going to be winter sowing soon. I have the slow bolt cilantro. Again, I don't really use the cilantro flowers for flower arrangements, but I do use the seed pods. I think the seed pods look really nice and give a nice kind of texture to things. So that is something that I'm actually looking forward to. Cilantro can be direct sowed as soon as the soil can be worked. At least that's how I do it here. But I like to kind of transplant it from the winter sowing just because it gives me more control and more options as to what's going on in the yard. Same thing with Auroch, technically can be direct sowed. I like to transplant it just so I have control. This Auroch comes in just an amazing color combination of these darks and these magenta colors and these chartreuse colors. And I really love the plumes. The seed plumes are actually what we're gonna be looking for when we grow these for our cut flowers. So we want to make sure that we get these into the garden as early as possible. Usually I transplant these around April 1st, maybe a little bit sooner, depending upon how established the trays are. I should mention that all of these flowers that I'm talking about here that I'm winter sowing in January, all of these flowers will be transplanted into my garden in their final locations before the last frost date. That's very important to note because these are my cool season flowers and we want them in the yard, well established, ready to roll, ready to plant, ready to grow rather. We want those established before the warm weather comes into play. Moving on, we have Feverfew. I've talked about this Feverfew before. I've mentioned how this Feverfew, I thought it was a tall one. Turns out it's not a tall one. It is what it is. Also, we have this edible chrysanthemum. This is the Shingiku. I don't know how to say that. I am not Japanese. I believe these are popular in Japan. These are the edible chrysanthemums, and unlike regular chrysanthemums, everything that I've read about these specifically tell me to get them into the ground as soon as I can, and they will bloom in the early spring, unlike, you know, the other chrysanthemums that I've been growing this year that will bloom in the fall. This is the first time I've ever grown these. I don't know how tall they are. I don't know anything about them. This is, you know, I'm learning here with this one. Your guess is as good as mine. So hopefully we'll have some interesting flowers to take a look at and learn a little bit more about. Next up, I also have some Marshmallow. I believe this is a perennial according to the package. I've grown several things in the mallow family, obviously, over the years. And I've seen rather large bushes growing a line of Marshmallow, and I think this is just going to go into my perennial patch. I have a small perennial patch, and I think this is going to go into it along with these purple coneflowers. Last year somebody gave me a gift from In My Gardener, and it was purple coneflowers. That packet of seed did absolutely fantastic. I think every single seed germinated of the like 200 or something. You can hear that's a ton of echinacea seeds, especially with winter sowing. You get such a great germination rate with the echinacea. I don't know why anybody would buy echinacea plants. So I thought in my perennial bed, the echinacea and the marshmallow might be a kind of cool combination if I can establish them together. So that's what I went with there. Going back to the straw flower that we mentioned earlier, I also got some silvery rose straw flower. This is just the pinky silver color. I think it'll go really nicely with the apricot peach mix that I bought from wherever I bought that from. I can't remember now off the top of my head. Also, moving on, I got some Grenadine King of Blacks carnation. Again, I got the pink carnation, and this seed packet was relatively cheap. It was the 99-cent one, so I was like, yeah, I'll grab those too. These are just a very, I'm not sure, I've never grown them in person. They're most often depicted as dark purple. I'm wondering if they actually are dark purple, because a lot of times things that are depicted as dark purple are really, you know, dark maroon or dark burgundy, so it'll be interesting to see what color that actually is. And last but not least, certainly not least, I have a collection of Snapdragons. Now, if you've been following along, you know that we have Snapdragons in the hoop house. We have the Madame Butterfly Snapdragons in the hoop house. I've also started some Chantilly bronze Snapdragons to plant as soon as the soil can be worked. And I also grabbed some Orange Wonder. I'm not quite sure how many seeds are in this packet. It says about 400 seeds. That's a lot of Snapdragon seeds. We have some Orange Wonder, which are very vibrant and orangey and yellow. We have some Rose, and we have some Apple Blossom, which are super pretty. I've grown the Apple Blossom before, actually, from a different seed provider. Anyway, One of the main reasons that I did grab so many Snapdragon seeds is I love Snapdragons. After having success with them for the first time last year, they have quickly become one of my favorite flowers. The spikes are just so ornamental, and they look so great with very little effort from me. So I am going to try to winter sow some of these again, get these into the garden, and really just protect them from the weeds, keep the weeds pulled out. And I'm going to see if I can get them through the hottest part of the summer, and maybe we can get some really nice Snapdragon blooms either in midsummer or even in fall. If I could figure out a way to get fall Snapdragon blooms, sign me up. That's gorgeous. I would absolutely love to have fall Snapdragon blooms. Seriously. So that's really about it. I hope that this was helpful. These are all the seeds that I am going to winter sow starting probably January 21st-ish. I'm going to put these in a seed tray and get these out into my little low tunnel like I did last year. So I'm not winter sowing in the jugs, but you certainly can winter sow in the jugs. You definitely can do that. I'm doing it on a little bit of a larger scale. But once these have germinated, they've gotten some true leaves, they've grown on a little bit, I will be transplanting all of this stuff into the growing space. Usually about the beginning of April. Again, my last frost date is usually the first week of May, so about a month. I really want to focus on getting a head growing start for these kind of cool season flowers that need that cool weather to become established before they start to bloom. I do have a couple other types of seed that I will be adding to this as soon as I get another seed order. I will be adding status to this. I will be adding annual phlox to this. Pansies also to this. Pretty much anything that is a cool season flower and prefers the cool season to bloom. Some things don't transplant well, things like larkspur, things like poppies. They technically are cool season plants, but they don't transplant very well. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, be sure to subscribe if you're not already. I'd love to have you. We're always trying to grow the channel. Tell your friends, share it on Facebook, do whatever you got to do. I'd love to have you. I hope that you guys are having such an amazing day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.